Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm just going to go through some hip holding, some hip positions in Warrior 2 and triangle pose. So to start off, grab yourself like a block or a cushion or a pillow or something and place it between your thighs, between your inner thighs. Place your feet about hips width distance apart, whatever space allows for that cushion to be there, and draw your abdomen up and back and engage your sits bones, squeezing them down and forward and together. So feel how that tuck of the abdomen and the engagement of the sits bones kind of opens up, or it lengthens that space in your low spine, but it also shifts your hips a little bit forward. Now engage your inner thighs and squeeze into that block, almost like you are pushing it towards the back of you, and see how that is the opposite tilt of the pelvis. So engage the glutes and the abdomen, draw them up and back, shifts the hips forward, and sends the pelvic floor into what we call anterior rotated. Posteriorly rotated, where it's coming, that would be posterior rotated, so it's tipping towards the back, and then anteriorly rotated, it's folding over towards the front. So you see that gentle curve in the low spine, and also you're engaging your inner thighs to pull them more towards one another. And put your hands on your sacrum and feel what that creates in your sacrum, so the space between your entire hip girdle here. Squeeze your inner thighs together, stick your tailbone out, allow the natural curve in your low spine, and feel what that feels like in your back. And then squeeze your sits bone together, tuck your tailbone under, draw your abdomen up, and see what that feels like. So the difference here is that you're creating less space when you're engaging and pulling your hip bones more towards one another. You're kind of crunching this whole area. And when you internally rotate your inner thighs, draw your hip bones back, stick your tail out, you are creating more space in your sacrum. So you're opening up here. This is a crucial motion in the spine, not only for finding neutral pelvis, so when you're not anterior or posteriorly tilting your spine, but also when you're in positions like downward facing dog, where you want to elongate your spine, stick your tailbone up and find some length. Squeezing those inner thighs down and in towards one another can really assist you get some length. So let me show you. Keep that block or bolster, whatever you have between your legs, and come into a downward facing dog and try it. So try squeezing your sits bones towards one another, squeezing down, and notice how that draws your hips forward. So this is the motion that we want to do when we're coming into a high plank, right? Rolling the spine forward, and then exhale, tuck the tailbone and stick your hips up in the air. Notice how it creates a little bit more of a natural arc in your low spine, and also allows you to create some more length in your upper torso and your upper spine. So inhale, come up high on your tiptoes, bend deeply in your knees, and just step your feet forward between your palms. We'll come to a nice half lift. Exhale and forward fold, and then inhale, rise all the way to Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hands to heart center, Samastiti. I want to now go through Warrior 2 and also triangle pose. So get familiar with what this feels like to squeeze your inner thighs together against the bolster or the block, and what it feels like when you're drawing your abdomen in and squeezing your sits bones together and shifting that block or bolster forward. Forward and back, forward and back. See what that does with the spine. Forward and back. Now keep those things in mind and come into Warrior 2. You don't have to do it anyway if that's super fancy. But it's really nice actually to come through a flow. So inhale and reach your arms up, Urdhva Hastasana, tuck your tailbone, draw your abdomen up and back, and then exhale, swan dive forward. Plant the fingertips down, let the head hang. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, step your right leg back into low lunge. Stay high on the ball of your right toes. Inhale, sweep your arms out and up and rotate the torso up to Anjaneyasana or crescent lunge. Then exhale, open the arms up, allow the right heel to fall down to the floor, warrior two. Here's where this activation of the back inner thigh can create a little bit more space in your sacrum here. So feel how if you squeeze your sits bones together in warrior two, drawing the abdomen, here I'll come this way, drawing the abdomen up and the sits bones down and together, always making sure that front knee is tracking over the front toes and that you're in one line. But as you squeeze those sits bones together and open your hips out to the sides, how does that feel on your sacrum? So put your hands on your sacrum, on your low back. And does that feel like it's crunching it a little bit more? To me, it does. Now, instead of squeezing the sits bones together, turn the back right foot inward a little bit. So it's on more of an angle like in warrior one. And then engage your back inner thigh down and towards the mat. You're still strong in the front leg, tracking the knee over the toe. But instead of having that back foot completely parallel with the short edge of the mat and opening up the hips and squeezing them together, try turning that back hip down and see how much more length that can give you and how much space it creates in your low spine. You know, this hip girdle is a tight region because it's one huge bone. So if we can activate our back leg to allow for a little bit more space there, see what that feels like to you. And then inhale, lengthen your arms up, reach high, straighten your front leg. And then exhale, reach forward like you're cutting yourself at your left hip and send your hips back in space. Reach out as far as you can. And as soon as you can't go down any further, just switch your arms so that your right arm is reaching up for the sky. You're finding length in your tailbone and length in your left side body to come into Trikonasana. Now, typically we would also say in Trikonasana to squeeze your sits bones together to come up like you're standing between two panes of glass. But instead, for just this exercise, try to turn that inner back thigh down towards the floor and see how much you can still lengthen, but maybe you can even come down a little bit further now because you're giving your sacrum a little bit more space to be, to exist, to live. When you turn it out and engage your sits bones back towards one another, you feel a much bigger stretch in your outer right hip flexor, but that sacrum is getting crunched by all of these muscles. So just try it. Try turning your back toes inward, and maybe that creates a little bit more length for you, and most importantly, a little bit more space in your sacrum. Inhale, arms back to warrior two. Come back into crescent, and then step together, Samastiti. I hope that enables you to find a little bit more personal flow in your warrior twos, in your triangle poses, and perhaps allows you to create a little bit more space in your sacrum, in your hips. So I invite you to try it on the other side as well, stepping back with your left leg this time. Probably should have done it that way on this video so you could see better, but anyways, yeah, just try it. The next time you come into warrior two, the next time you come into triangle pose, see what the difference of having your back toes pointed in or maybe slightly forward, so they're a bit on like a 45-degree angle. It's not specific, just where does that feel like you are able to get a little bit more space in your sacrum and your hips. Yoga is about creating space in our bodies, in our lives, and in our minds. I hope this allows you to create some more space in your hips and see what that translates to in terms of thoughts and what you're creating more space for in your life as well. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you next time. So much love.